think that teenagers, youth, have a lot of stories to tell. Especially youth in communities of color, they have a lot of experiences that are worth knowing.
The history books tell what happened, and the artists tell how we felt about it.
I can't, divorce myself from the experiences and the realities of my community when I make art. It's all intertwined.
My work is, I would say, inspired by my experience, and my experience as a whole, experience in my community, experience with my family or friends, or I think that's what makes an artist an individual, is them speaking for themselves.
I wanted to be a photographer since I was a little girl. I felt that photography was a very powerful way to learn about the world and just to learn about other cultures and what people were going through. And so seeing photojournalists in, the work of photojournalists in magazines and newspapers since I was a little girl inspired me. And I just thought that the work was so important.
I started drawing when I was probably 6 years old. I have a twin sister, and we drew every day together, so it was really just a lot of fun. My mom was a really good painter, so she could help us, and it was just something we always really enjoyed.
And I drove by Estrada Courts and saw this mural of the kid swinging on the tire, and it visited aviation. I was working in aerospace engineering at the time. I'm like, man, who's this cat? I sure like to meet him someday. And I did.
Well, I didn't grow up wanting to be a photographer, but I always enjoyed visiting car shows, meeting people, talking about their cars, passion for their cars and stuff like that. And what really helped was encouragement from friends and family to, they saw something in the photography and they said, keep going, you're doing good. And, little by little, I stuck with it, and I stepped up my camera, stuff like that, hit more shows, met more people, made more friends, stuff like that. So it's all been really encouraging and helpful.
As far as I can remember, I've always been drawing, doing stuff, so I guess forever.
People that don't appreciate art. That's really funny to me. I think I rarely run into it, but when I do, I think I'd take a minute to sit them down and do you understand how much art affects you? Because they're going to be wearing clothing that was designed by someone. They're going to be driving a car that was designed by someone. They're in a house that was designed by someone. Literally everything they touch and they're around was design-based and created because of art. So I do think people really do underappreciate the art that is around them. I think I'm privileged enough to be living in California in general, which is the biggest industry of art. So it's a little more rare to run into it here, but somewhere in the South or back east or somewhere like that, you do run into that. And I think it's kind of a shame when people don't appreciate that.
I feel that there's something missing, that they're missing out. I think that art is something very beautiful, and all kinds of art. Photography, as I said, is very powerful. You get to see, you see some of these photos and then you get to see emotion in them. You get to freeze time. Photographs are, one of the only things that make you where you can freeze a moment, and that moment will live forever. So it's really it's sad that some people don't know how to appreciate it. I think that they are missing out in their lives.
I just think that people who say that they don't appreciate art, or that point to someone and say, you just don't appreciate my artwork, I don't think that that's necessarily the right approach to take to having a discussion and a debate.
Yeah, there are plenty of political messages, but what I like is that they're pretty much left up to the viewer. There are some times, with the president stuff, that I'll voice my opinion, but a lot of times I like to put images out there and just let people, see what they see. So sometimes I've been accused of spreading like gang messages and stuff because I post up a photo that has graffiti in it, but there's more to the image than just the graffiti, so it's up to the viewer. But yeah, there are plenty of political messages. I mean, just the stuff that I shoot, low riding and stuff like that is political. Chicano, activism and different events and stuff is all political.
We try not to be political, but we do photograph issues in the community. So we do, for example, this march, of course, has a lot of political connotation, especially this year was very, all the marches have a lot of political action on them.
The type of art I want around my community is art that reflects that community. I think that's the biggest problem with a lot of the gentrification that happens with these communities is you have these artists or galleries with savior complex, oh, let me come into your community, show you what our art is, and show you what good art is. And these communities have good art in them. They have good artists. They have all the tools they need, and unfortunately we just don't get the spaces granted for that. So I think the art that needs to be in these communities is the art that reflects these communities, reflects the people that are in them.
Well, like I said, the murals, especially the murals out here on the east side, you have a lot of muralists that paint, for looks, aesthetics, how it looks, and they look nice, and that's cool in itself. But when you go to the east side, you see a lot more murals that tell stories, right? That capture a history, and I think that's where you can really bring communities together, because you can show the shared struggle, their shared history, their shared, oppression or anything like that. Shared success. That's another thing that we don't push enough. We have successes in the community. Why don't we put portraits of them up?
I hope to see more artwork that engages cross generations, right? Cross issues, that it's not necessarily about monetizing work and artwork, but more about a process where it becomes a point of entry for communities to be able to talk and dialogue and build.
The people that took those photos did all of us a favor, because they're teaching us with those images 50 years, 50 years ago. So I think images are a huge part in celebrating culture, teaching, and keeping it going, for the next generation and generations after that.
We think of murals a lot of times as decoration, right? Just something nice to look at. But the way I see murals, they're reminders there. So when you see them, you should be able to say oh, if they did it, then we can do it, right? Or whatever struggle they had, it didn't end, in the 60s or 70s. It continues, and you're a part of it, and our kids will be a part of that. And so that's what I want people to get out of it. That they see it's an ongoing struggle, and that it serves as a reminder of if there's something that you don't like, do something about it. Don't just let it happen.
I got to fly on a vacation to Barcelona. So I was exposed to culture, how they preserve old things. They admired art so much. And I think of Los Angeles and how all these malls and all these knocking down buildings, so they do a little strip mall, beautiful houses being knocked down, put apartments. And I thought, we got to do something. And Johnny, he inspired me. He said, well, let's do murals. Wow, murals, huh?
Art's important to the community because it talks about the culture. You look at through history and you look at different cultures today. They all have artwork, music, plays, poetry that represent who they are. You think of ancient Rome, you picture the architecture and the artwork. You look at Native American culture, and they have their own type of artwork, their own language, their own storytelling. So it defines people.
And our art has not been told either. Most of the art, like I said, is of white people. Even if you go to Mocha, it's mostly white people, white art, everything. So it's important because we need to have our opinions and our history out there. a lot of people think it's just like a pastime, but it's not a pastime because like if it was just a pastime, then all these museums would be filled up with it. And it's just another, to me, it's just another way of telling a story. So it's another way of just passing down history.
I try capturing honest moments. I think that a lot of, especially covering like lowriding culture, there's a lot of negativity that goes with it. People want to say that, lowriders, are gang members, the cars are bought with drug money, stuff like that. So what I do is just shoot it like I see it, and honest moments. One of the photos that I'm most proud of is one that I called American as Apple Pie. It's a photo with 6 guys, maybe, one guy looking into a 48 Chevy Fleetline, just celebrating the car, celebrating the camaraderie, the guys just hanging out. When you have guys surrounding a hot rod, it's all good. It's American. It's American pastime, and it's innocent. But when you've got guys looking at a lowrider, people see it in a different way. But it's the same thing. It's as American as the hot rod is. It's an American experience, just the same.
Our last panel was a mom walking down like a pathway with 2 of her kids, and like one in a rebozo. And it said it was sort of like a freeway, so it said "Próxima salida, vivir tu vida." And a mom, what really caught my attention, she got her kids and she stood in front of the mural and she said, "This explains exactly my life." So what she did in front of the mural, she stood where the woman was standing, and then she got her 2 kids, and then she holding their hands, and until this day I still have this picture, and it really touched her heart.
Whenever you have murals and you have kids that are growing up and they're able to put their stuff on their wall, right? They take ownership of that. They're not going to go and destroy it. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why there should be more art, more murals. I think in the long run you end up saving a lot more money, than just kind of painting over it and this never-ending battle of taggers in the city.
Just tell your story. Nobody's going to do it better than you. Hollywood has tried. Hollywood has failed, I think. Representation matters, but being at the end of the day, being honest with yourself, telling your own story, no one's going to do it better.